Erik Ten Hag has been sacked by Manchester United. I'm not going to take great glee in that, really. It's always sad when a manager loses his job. But blimey, it's about time, isn't it? Yeah, it's a bit of a shock, but not so much, really. How are you feeling, mate?
You can't be surprised in some ways at the decision. I mean, you look at his record this season, even going back to actually quite a chunk, especially at the end of last season when I think a lot of fans expected him to leave in the summer, especially if we lost that FA Cup final. It almost seems like that's what kept him in the job. 100%. To be honest, a bit of relief, but more down to I hope it just lets the shackles off some of these players a little bit. It almost feels like sometimes when you're watching these games, there's just too much information drilled into them, and it's almost, I think, a little bit overwhelming.
See, I feel the opposite. I feel like they've been a bit aimless. Like they're not sure what the instructions are, not clear. And there's some actual, real world-class quality players there who've played under some world-class coaches. And I feel like sometimes they've just had to make it up as they go along. That's not a great sign either. But yeah, 128 games as Manchester United manager, a 56% win record, which isn't bad. But it's more the recent history that's been the most shocking, isn't it, for Ten Hag? No win in Europe for a year. 14th in the Premier League as we record, and it's just not acceptable. And I think the highest of highs under Ten Hag has been great. There's been some real moments where some players have been nurtured and come through. Obviously, the cup wins stand out. That FA Cup win was superb. But 4 wins from 14 games this season is just not good enough, is it, Dave? And every passing game since the Spurs game especially, I thought this must be it. How much more time does he need to be given? What are we waiting for? So what do you think INEOS were waiting for?
It's difficult. I think since that game, I definitely think there's been talks with other potential candidates, other managers going on in the background, because you're looking at the back of that result and the performance itself, and even other performances earlier on this season. Surely there can't have been, there had to be alarm bells ringing in there.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, and let's not be silly and saying, they will just be acting as though everything's fine. Obviously, the timing is strange because we've just had an international break that's just gone. Almost feels like the last couple of games, last 2 or 3 games have been kind of a bit of a waste of time, really, because we've just ambled through those fixtures.
Yeah.
And now we're in a position now where I think we've got, 5 or 6 more games now until the next international break. And obviously our next league game is against Chelsea at the weekend, which is obviously by no means a straightforward fixture. So
really odd timing.
It's strange timing, but better late than never, I suppose.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think what you said with the FA Cup win as well, I feel like that was the right time to say goodbye. From Ten Hag's point of view, like obviously he's received a reported somewhere between 15 and 20 million pound payoff or something for being sacked. But money aside, like from a point of pride, I think he could have walked out after that cup final with his head held pretty high, with the record still relatively good and positive, and with 2 trophies to his name. And he could have probably landed a pretty good job after the summer somewhere else, a pretty good side. But now his reputation's kind of been damaged a little bit more. United have taken further steps back as if we didn't even think that was possible, really, at the end of the season. So I don't know why he signed a contract or why he was given a new contract in the summer. What was INEOS's game plan here? I know they were keen to give him like a trial run with this new setup above him. And obviously he's been given the players that he really wanted. But Miles called it quite early from game 1 against Fulham. Like nothing's changed. Like the problems still existed all over the pitch, didn't they? The system never changed with the personnel.
No, and that's another thing. We've obviously recruited some of these new players in with the idea of playing under this manager as well. We've recruited the likes of Andre Onana, Alessandro Martinez, of the idea of playing out from the back and playing in the style of Ten Hag. But I don't think we ever really identified a style under him, to be honest. It was really difficult to see what we were trying to do at times.
On the pitch, I can't see any evidence of coaching or training happening. And, obviously when Unai Emery is the prime example of changing a coach to be a coach and to get the best out of the players available, when he came into Villa, you saw that within 3-4 games, like they were playing a certain way. And every passing game with Ten Hag, I was like, well, what are we doing now? What's his identity? And I still don't know what it is. And then you can obviously beat him with the stick of how much money is spent on players under his tenure. It's a lot of money. And the players that have been signed, I've got to say, are mostly quite good. Like, there's some players there who I'm really optimistic about, especially from this window. And I think they are definite ones to build on for the future. So, yeah, there's some positives that have happened under him. But the biggest one for me, I don't know about you, is just the signing of Anthony. Like, the amount of money we've thrown at that guy and the amount that he's given on the pitch, it's just so minimal. Like, the return on investment for him, somebody he really trusted and actually stubbornly stuck to in the last few games as well, when Ahmad was on the bench, having played brilliantly at the start of the season. It's just some of these decisions that he made, I just couldn't fathom them. And I think that didn't help for him either, did it?
Mazraoui in the 10 as well.
Yeah, what the hell? Why experiment then?
In the Europa League, there's been some strange ones, hasn't there? And
I think the Ten Hag era has been tarnished by so many lows. Like, some of the defeats we've suffered during his time, like thrashings at the hands of like Liverpool and City, and teams coming to Old Trafford and getting their first win in like 50 years or something because of just how passive we are. And it's a sign of how far we've fallen, Dave, when we look at each game each weekend and we think, oh, it's Crystal Palace at home. Oh, I don't know about that one. And every single game that comes up, you just think, actually, we could easily lose that on the form we're in. And that felt like it every match week. And that's just stressful and draining for a United fan, isn't it?